Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
John, you gotta rise for Pledge Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We do have a celebrity in our midst who is on TV and all over Facebook, and that would be Lori Johnson, one of our bus drivers. So thank you for that. Turn that on. Okay, approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? John, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
This thing is more than 30 seconds behind.
Is he waiting for the TV or the phone?
All right, I don't know. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, no one signed up for public comments on the agenda items, so we don't have any student board member reports, so we'll go to board member reports. Liana?
Yeah.
Is John?
It is 30 seconds behind. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can hear this phone.
Well, yes, thank you for Lori for representing your bus drivers out there on TV, and that was I got to go out on Monday and Tuesday and spend a whole day or we were out there. I forgot how many hours.
Couple
we were out
hours.
there. Yeah, for the first day at one spot and the second day at another spot, and it was better traveled the second day because people understood it better. There was some miscommunication at first, but every step that seemed like, oh, that's a hitch. It was just fixed and kept moving forward. There was no hitches that stopped the operation. It was wonderful. It was wonderful to see the groups of people at each site connecting with the community, with the parents. We're not all okay. Some of us sometimes we're okay and sometimes we're not. So the video that I saw on the TV today, I didn't get to see it before. So this morning I watched it and I was in tears. The mom that was speaking, she speaks for a lot of the parents. So I hope that people realize, not just in our district, that all the kids 0 through 18 can come and school age kids can come and use that. I hope that they do. So it was pretty cool.
Okay, thanks. And I too drove around on Monday to the different sites on the north end. Tomorrow my plan is to go south end if there's down there. And I was so impressed with our staff and our bus drivers, our food service people. It was pretty incredible, and it just made me feel good. And there's an old beat up bus that's parked up there by Tiger Lake. And that's the bus I saw when I drove by, and I thought, oh no, this is not good. This doesn't look good at all. But our beautiful bus was just 1 block away, so it was all good.
Yeah, I attended the levy committee meeting, which I thought was very informative, and the planning that's going into that is very positive. I want to give just a special shout out to the entire district. Laura and I came in, was it on Friday or Thursday or Friday?
Thursday. It was Thursday.
When we were talking about, closures and what it might be looking like and, how long we can hold out. And that decision ultimately was made for us, but I come from a background of planning, just organizational planning, and I was really impressed by what I saw and the fact that as this current situation changes on a minute by minute basis, it feels like, continue to be dynamic and roll with the punches that are coming. And I think it's really a testament to you and the staff, from your level to our substitutes, if they're still coming in, but into volunteers. It's really impressive to see. It's not without glitches, and it's not going to be, but it's how you recover and how we're able to keep going. That's any line of work that does planning, emergency planning. This would be a case study in doing it right. So,
Well, I will pass that on.
yeah,
Thank you.
please do.
Don't have too much to report, but you and I, Laura, attended the the conference.
The audit entrance
Yeah, the audit
conference?
entrance meeting, which turned out to be via the telephone with the state, and that meant that I didn't have very much to say. Laura, you had a whole lot to say, yes or no. Until the very end, I had a comment, but we have to get used to that kind of stuff. My prediction is it's going to take them longer to do this online than it is going to be in person, but who knows, maybe they and the school district will really get that stuff going. But in any case, did that. But otherwise, the event that I was involved with was with Dr. LePere, right here in our audience today, in that we were doing this tuxedo sorting project that the Builders Club kids were supposed to help on, the Key Club kids were supposed to help on. None of the kids from either club came, were able to come or whatever it was. So it was Don, myself, and a couple other Kiwanis members who did it. Don then came the next day and finished it off with another Kiwanis member and that sort of thing. But very interesting to see all these tuxedos, and I'm not quite sure what's going to happen to them, but part of the idea was that this would be a way for our kids to get very low-cost tuxedos for the prom, for whatever formals they're interested in, but also community members eventually. But again, I'm not involved with how that's going to happen down the road. But now that the school is out, and I guess they don't need tuxedos quite right yet, so we'll see. And then finally, I've been having a lot of difficulty with computer access at where I live. I have that all the time anyway. And I don't need to get into the details, but now finally this new computer is seeming to work better for me, especially when I come here. All of a sudden everything works really good. Oh, that wasn't there before, kind of stuff. In any case, it seems like it's getting better, and down the road there's talk of the PUD coming out with cable, and they've actually offered to the Girl Scouts, give us $150 right now, or maybe it was $250 or whatever it was, right now, and we won't charge you anything more, but if we're going to be able to do it, we will do it in a year or two. By that time, I'll probably have retired, but in any case, the future is bright for internet up where I live. Right now, it is not bright at all, but anyway, that's enough.
Okay, thank you. And I too, like Craig.
Do
John, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Art in a tuxedo.
Okay, then.
And I have another one, and that is that I too attended that levy committee meeting, and the one that they had, and I was ready to go to the one that got canceled. And so I'll be interested in seeing where we are on that. And the other thing I need to mention is that I'm still scheduled for March on the school board letter, but so much has happened, I really don't know what would be the useful message for me to put out. That doesn't have to be responded to right now, but at some point I hope I come away from the meeting with some ideas.
Okay, good. Thanks, John. And I just want to add my praise to you and to the admin team. I showed up here on Thursday just after Dana had finished with her team and the directors, and they all had great ideas and really stepped up to the plate. And I'm proud, just proud. So let's move on to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve, or if someone wants anything removed from the consent agenda.
I move to accept it and
Okay.
ask for a comment period.
Okay. Discussion.
I'd like to acknowledge that in the donation report, we had a significant donation
Yes, we did.
to track and field, which let me pull it up because I just want to make sure I don't mess up the
Oh, I'm glad you're going to do that.
name. To Water Legacy LLC for a $10,000 donation
Nice.
to Boys and Girls Track and Field, which that I don't even have words to put to that, but that's pretty amazing. So thank you to them.
Don't we have to approve that, or does that just go with the consent?
It goes with the consent
Okay.
agenda. So.
Okay.
And all the other, obviously all the other donations are always important and always appreciated as well, but
Yeah, that's a lot of,
that's
that's a lot
That's
of.
a lot.
significant.
That's
Dollars.
huge. That was very generous. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So now we're at the replacement of expiring levy. No, I have an old thing. Okay, never mind. There's a transportation presentation that I skipped right over, the most
Yes.
important department in our district right now. Maureen?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, the presentation has evolved as the week has come on. And this week we started with 6 locations to deliver food for lunch and breakfast to students. And as the week went on, we reassessed the needs and locations and how they're doing. Day 1, we only did 106 meals with the buses. But day 2, we did over 200, and we added a location because we realized of a need. The numbers have continued to climb every day with the buses, and today we went up 100 again. And then, and throughout the week, we've also been looking at what can we do to reach all of the kids in our district? How can we reach everybody in a convenient way? Because we do realize that there's parents that are still working and things like that. And so we've been assessing how to do that in an efficient manner, also understanding that 1/3 of the bus driver staff is in an at-risk category with this current situation. So we want to acknowledge that and not put them at risk as well. So we have come up with a plan. We're still finalizing the details of it, but to put in place on Monday of driving modified bus routes and reaching throughout the entire district, everywhere that we normally would reach with kids.
So like Maureen pointed out, there are places where really door-to-door isn't safe for the bus to stop and hand out food and supplies or pick up lessons, because like on the North Shore, there are places where they would stop that being parked there would cause
Right.
an issue even
Yes.
for a few minutes. So they're kind of, in some places, condensing those into safe areas, but many more stops than,
Yeah, we're gonna have 8 buses out there, but is what we've figured it out to be, but they're actually going to be driving around instead of stationary like we've been this week. So it'll be, and hopefully reach a lot more of our students and be able to get their homework to them, get their food to them, and also be able to just have that moment of hi. And that really makes a difference. We started the week with every driver calling the families on their routes, just reaching out to them, checking in, seeing what they're, if they could get to the locations that we had already determined and things like that. So we've made a lot of progress this week in trying to assess the needs and where those needs are for our drivers, for our students, and going from there.
Okay.
I made the offer. I have an expertise driving large vehicles, so if you guys need an extra driver.
And actually,
we may have to take you up on that. 'Cause
if you have places that are hard to get to, I could drive my little car to, some homes out there that maybe the bus couldn't. I went on a dirt road to get over to Tiger Lake from Belfair to Huya Road. Oh, what is that? What's the name of that road? Blacksmith? That was an experience.
That's not always open.
There's a
shut
lot
it
of
off
people,
halfway
though, that
through
live
winter.
there. So anyway, that's my offer if you need any extra drivers.
Well, I appreciate that.
I can't drive the
bus.
bus. I won't drive the bus.
I
Can't
love
back it
driving
up.
Big vehicles.
Craig has a passion for it, so
I know.
think we'll start there if needed for the bigger vehicles. But hopefully we don't get to that point. Our drivers enjoy seeing their kids. They
Yeah.
really have a passion for what they do, and I am proud to have them as part and be a member of their team. And the passion that they have for our kids is just overwhelming.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I mean, well done, I should say.
Well done.
It's- You guys
For
are doing a
sure.
good job, and it's just probably week 1, but we got a long way to go. So
well, you're up to almost 600 meals today.
685 breakfast, 685 lunch.
Yeah. And 315 of them were done on bus today.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
So we're doing a good, almost half and half between.
So are you
buildings and buses.
serving younger children too that are not in school yet?
Correct. Anyone from the age of 1 to 18 can get a
Okay.
meal.
Okay, that's good to know.
how is the and this is one thing I might bring me back if I go on a tangent. But,
Okay.
with regards to the 7 buses that have Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
how are those working out there for people being able to use technology with the Wi-Fi? Because,
We haven't started that yet. That'll
Okay.
start Monday.
okay.
The students haven't, yeah, that'll
Okay.
start on Monday. We do have, those buses are out and about, but that's again, if we find that that's a need, that we need to be
Okay.
able to park the buses in certain locations, then we'll have to address that as well as providing locations. We did go out and assess where we can access the Wi-Fi
Mhm.
that are large enough locations that people could come and park.
And congregate right in
and
there, yeah.
congregate, keeping social distancing in mind.
Yeah.
So, but we've identified a few places,
Good.
both on the South Shore and the North Shore sides of the canal, to be able to identify if that need arises for us to be able to provide that.
Great.
Super.
I just,
It's more than a luxury.
oh wait, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, okay. I'm very impressed hanging out there down at the bus garage in the meeting room, and you had broken everybody up into two groups and spaced everybody out. And I sat over in the corner with the cat and listened, and through stress and all of the different personalities working together, and people, whether they're calling and saying they're sick or they're like, oh, we gotta go, you know, whatever, everything. The sense I got was everybody's a team no matter what. It doesn't matter if everybody's getting along at the moment because tensions are high, whatever. They're all like, we still have to move forward. So they all went out there, and the people that I got to ride with, I had a really good time listening to how they talk about their job, and they don't say nothing bad at all. I mean, they're just, I love my job, I love driving, I love my kids. That's the biggest thing I hear is I love my kids. And it was like, oh, I love my kid too. Like, thank you. So, and I got to have a special talk with my son's bus driver, her. So it was a really neat experience. So thank you, and you do a very good job down there.
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Yeah, do. Thanks again, Maureen.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we are at board development and linkage with the superintendent's update.
And we'll start with the budget status report from Ashley Supre.
So in an effort to conserve paper, I am taking stuff right off my laptop. Okay, so we'll start with our budget dashboard. So this is for the general fund. We've made a lot of progress in the last 2 weeks, so I'm going to update you on where we ended in February, and I'm going to give you another little update past that. So as of right now, total revenues collected actual year-to-date versus where technically we would have expected to be, we're about 2% under. You'll see later on in the presentation where that 2% is coming from. Mainly at the end of February, it was due to lower property tax collections and lower federal revenue collections. Local sources, actual year-to-date, this is where we're seeing the under-collected property taxes by 3% from where we would expect to be at this point. And state sources, actual year-to-date, we're trending almost spot on. We're about less than 1% under. Federal sources, actual year-to-date, here you're seeing a pretty significant difference between what we've actually collected versus where we should be. What I can say is as of yesterday, I was able to do a $320,000 federal claim, and that is going to bring us flush. So you're going to see those two numbers merge as of the end of this month, so that will be nice. We can move on to expenditures. So expenditures, if everything were to track exactly how it was as of the end of February 28th, our ending fund balance would be 4.47%. Our total expenditures actual year-to-date versus where we would expect to be, we're spot on, we're 0.3% off. Our actual salaries and benefits year-to-date versus where we had budgeted, we're 5% under. That's because of some last-minute cuts that we had made in August before coming into the school year. And our basic education actual year-to-date dollars, we're currently sitting at about 47%. Technically, we should be trending about 49%, but because of those cuts we made in August, that's why you're seeing that difference there. The next one is showing where we're trending for ending fund balance on the next slide. So as of right now, this report is showing February. April is our property tax collection month, so we would normally see a spike in April. Denise, do you want to go to the next slide or just scroll down one?
I think she's trying to.
There we go.
All right.
So April, we would normally see the spike. There could be some potential impacts to that based upon some recent news from Governor Inslee. So we'll have to see how that impacts our property tax collections. The goal of what we're working on here in the district is to get that very, the blue line, we're trying to get that last box as close to that green triangle as possible. Because technically that's would be what we would need our ending fund balance to be at 8%, is that $2.8 million figure. Our general fund high level review, our local tax collection, we're about $270,000 under collected from where we would expect to be at this point of the year. And then you'll see down there under the federal special purpose how there's $353,000 in the red right there. That amount right there is what I just claimed again. So I just claimed $320,000. So you're going to see that deficit right there close as of the end of this month. The state general purpose, the state decided to make some mid-year changes to transportation. That's where we would normally see that revenue, and we won't be seeing that revenue there this year.
This year?
Correct. They've adjusted the formula after they gave us what we would expect to be collecting this year. And they made a change to that based upon what the legislation's intent was on the money versus what
What
they
it
felt
said.
it was used for. And so we saw a decrease in the month of February, and it's possible that we'll see a decrease again in May. There's a lot of districts that have pulled together in hopes of trying to change it. That's a little bit up in the air right now because it could impact our transportation funding for next year as well and lower our funding. So that's sort of on the horizon. We've also been told that, I don't know if you guys remember back to last year where we got the one-day notice that they were holding back some of our transportation allocation and giving us an IOU for July. It sounds like they may have to do the same again this year. So they'll underpay us in June and then pay us back in July to get into the next biennium. Okay, so next slide, this one, we're gonna have to expand it a little bit. It has a lot of really good information in it though, so I wanted to be able to provide this one. This goes into a little bit more detail as far as our specific revenue categories and our specific expenditure categories to show where our differences are coming up on both the revenue and expenditure side. So that $229,000 under 3,100, that is our general basic ed apportionment. And so you can see that we are under collected right now by that $229,000. So these are the dollars that come in that technically aren't earmarked, that we are allowed to use to be able to pay for our teachers, pay for our paraeducators. And right now we're currently underfunded by $229,622. The state tells us how much money we're going to be getting in this area based upon budgeted numbers. We know our budgeted enrollment is above what we had budgeted at. So this is literally underfunding at this point. And then you can also see that $356,000 figure for the federal side. But that should be cleaned up as of the end of this month. Then expenditures, you can
Excuse me, are they going to make that whole in the 3,100 area?
that's what we are requesting.
In the
but-
summertime? I mean, is this what they're holding back and then they'll pay it?
No.
No.
No, they, so what ended up happening with transportation, there was a $29 million like supplemental allocation given to districts for transportation funding that was supposed to be used to help catch bus drivers' payroll and benefits up to what they should be based upon the other salary stimulus package that was given out to help fund teachers and help fund classified, and then they realized, hey, wait a second, we didn't do anything for transportation. So they put $29 million out there to help fund transportation. But the funding formula transportation is completely different than the funding formulas for all of the rest of our staff. They get funded a year behind. So the money we get this year is based upon what our expenditures were last year. Well, last year, at the tail end of the year, they give us, in February, they give us the stimulus of $230,000 and said, $230,000. So they said, hey, you can use this on wages. Well, it's mid-year. We're open for a contract. We're negotiating raises that start this year. So that amount goes, that's part of the transportation budget, okay? But when they're funding this year, they're looking at last year's expenditures, which doesn't have that $229,000 that was given for salaries, because you have to bargain that, which goes into this year's budget. And so they're not reflecting that now, so they took that money back. It's backwards funding.
Was that something that was snuck in? Because I get the legislative updates, and this is new information. No one else has brought this from around.
We just started dealing with it and bringing it up. I think the gentleman from Port Angeles,
Jim,
sent you something in the last couple of weeks about it, maybe?
We just found out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So this has been something we've been working on.
We've been arguing.
No.
And so have all the other business offices. This has impacted, in fact, unfortunately for us, because our numbers of students went up, although this is 230 less than we should have, it didn't put us in the red on the overall picture of transportation right now. It still shows us with
80,000 positive.
80,000 in the positive, but instead of being at 80,000, we should be at 310.
Yep.
So there are districts that are in the hundreds of thousands in the negative as a result of the millions as a result of this. So the response to us is, yeah, this is really bad for a lot of people, but not really for you guys because you're still in the red. But so we're still arguing.
So basically what they're looking at is your overall
Or
apportionment.
she's still in the black, excuse me.
Your overall apportionment last year was just over, what, 2,100,000.
Yeah, but we're only allowed to use money in certain places.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yep, and so they're saying, well, now you don't have just 2,100,000, you have 2,180,000. So you're actually 80,000 in the positive. But then Maureen and I look at each other and said, but you gave us 230,000 to bargain raises. We bargained raises with that, and now you just took it away. We still have to pay the people what we bargained. So that's the issue that we're dealing with. And I will say that some of our districts in Kitsap counties, they're $500,000, $800,000, $1 million deficit from where they were last year. So it hit them extremely hard, and now they're struggling to find out what are they going to do next year then, because they've bargained these raises based upon this money that they don't have. So
It is something that I think as you guys in WASDA are starting to set your legislative agenda, it needs to be addressed.
What is it that you say, Dawn, about how we run our business?
Ditto. That's all I'm gonna say. You've heard it enough times.
So, and this is especially difficult because one of the things I always task Maureen with is running her budget in the black. Like, I don't care if it's a zero, just don't have it be in the red. And so she does a really good job tracking every single expense. And then when we get this wrench thrown in February, and we're expecting more, and we're waiting for that report to come in, and we're like, we're gonna get more money, we have more ridership and all this, and then all of a sudden, our January apportionment report versus our February apportionment report, it's gone down. And you're like, we budgeted at this amount because that's what you told us we would get, and now you gave us less, but we have more ridership. It makes no sense. So that's something we're dealing with right now. You can see the next set of items down there are our expenditures. Okay, so you can see for special education, we're currently $373,000 in the red. There's little we can do about that. We are mandated to provide special education services, and we have to do it regardless of how much money we receive to provide special education services. So that, and then we'll have
But we are in the process of doing an application.
reallocation. Oh, yeah. Yep, safety net.
A safety net yeah.
Which will bring in
application.
about, if approved, will bring in about $100,000 of additional special education funding. So we sent that off on March 11th, and we'll probably hear back sometime next month as to whether or not it's been approved.
And then we'll do a reallocation of dollars with
To be
that
able
too.
to utilize those funds. A lot of the rest of the areas where you're seeing red are also in our categorical funding. Title I, our learning assistance program, our special pilot programs, our transitional
So
bilingual
those are all
programs.
federal and
Yeah.
state mandated programs.
Yes. And so what will end up happening, I can't end the year with red in those categories, okay? So what you end up doing is, at the very end of the year, you have to reallocate those expenses over to local levy dollars.
Oh,
So, because our state dollars have been spent, and our federal dollars have obviously been spent, and so local levy then is what would help fill that gap. So, that would be the goal on that
And
side.
those you continue to claim and get more money every month
Correct.
too, so.
Correct.
Because those show what we, expect that we're gonna spend, and then two, it's not just, right?
And
Yeah.
we can make the case fairly easily that, hey, state, hey, feds, you owe us money to do what you're mandating us to do.
Correct. And that's one
It
of the.
doesn't help in the
Mhm.
immediacy.
Well, and that's one of the things that we've been trying to really hone in on and focus in on is coding our expenditures to an appropriate program, even if that means it shows up red.
Yeah.
That's where the expense
Right.
is. Yes, we will reallocate and put it into local levy before the financial statements are due, because by law we have to, but we need to see, where are we over, where do we need more funding, and these are the areas that are coming up. So, so that's what we're looking at on that side. So that's general fund. Do you guys have any questions regarding our general fund status? Okay. So we'll go into our other funds.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Just a kind of a general. So we have these things that we have to do, state and federal, and then they fund us, but they don't fund us all of it, and so we end up in the red, and we have to go out for a levy to pay for the rest,
Correct.
and try to keep a levy. I think it's a very good point, if people are listening, that when I hear a lot like, well, the schools need to budget better or whatever. You've budgeted, you have all these things that are put as a requirement by the state and federal, but then the funding that is given to it is not enough to fund it, and the state is expecting that the levy will pass.
Correct.
Okay, so I want, if people would go out and, I mean, I know it's just a few people here, but people watching, whatever, that's what we're trying to explain to people, is that it's not the school sitting here, or the school board, or teachers, or the superintendent sitting here going, well, we just spent all the money, so.
We just want a
you know,
slush fund, but
we-
yeah.
Right, I
don't.
want people to know that the funding is needed, because we have to do these things, and we don't have enough to pay for that,
Right.
because the funding that comes to us is not enough.
Our federal funding increases between 1% to 2% a year. But the expenditures in those sides of the programs increase much more than 1% to 2% a year.
Yeah.
And
I'm
a
sorry
lot
that
of it is
didn't come
stuff
out.
that we're mandated to do. We don't really have a choice.
Right.
And so the funding, it doesn't keep up with the cost of the expenses.
No.
Okay, so we'll start with our other funds, which tends to make me happier. So capital projects, we made a nice big payment on the stadium. Our last payment, besides the retainage bond, for the actual grandstands. In addition to that, I had done that $1 million transfer to pay from debt service into capital projects to pay for the new roof at Sand Hill, and to pay for the early kindergarten portable. So right now, our capital projects fund is sitting at 1.9 million. Debt service is currently sitting at just over 1.1 million. And that's sufficient to pay our last debt payment of this school year. ASB is currently sitting at $438,000. I expect ASB to be sitting
Pretty
at
flush.
about that amount for maybe a few months. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of activity happening in that column. We'd have to have students here. Transportation Vehicle Fund, we're currently sitting at $176,000. We received that insurance payment for the big bus. When is that bus supposed to be here? So next month, you're gonna see that decrease, so as we pay for that bus. Enrollment. So.
I don't like that laugh.
Sorry.
Enrollment decreased, surprisingly, in the month of March, by nearly 20 FTE.
What was the count date?
For March,
Yeah.
that would have been the 2nd.
Okay.
And we were already having families keep kids home.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So now here's.
Still above. I mean, it's
Here's
just.
Yeah.
it is, but here's one of the detriments. So we've all heard talk on how they're going to determine how they're going to pay our apportionment for the rest of the year.
Right.
We don't want them to take our March count. It's one of our lowest count days aside from September, but it's our most recent one.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some talk about them potentially taking
February.
February, which would be beneficial to us. If they take March, they're funding us at very likely at a lower amount than what our student population would actually be. So we'll have to wait and see.
Well,
Or
there's an
they can
argu-
fund us at the average.
There's an
The-
argument to be made there that February was the last unaffected month.
That is
And the
true.
most recent guidance did say February.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I'm still waiting, they're supposed to be coming down with guidance from OSPI regarding how the funding is supposed to happen from here on out. There's a lot of requirements at both the state and federal level for certain thresholds that have to be met in order for certain funding to occur. I know that there's been talk about waiving a lot of those requirements at the state level. One of the things we're still waiting on is clarification on what's going to happen at the federal level. We have staff that are coded to federal programs, and they have to be working specifically in those federal programs in order for us to pay for them out of those programs. So if we have paraeducators paid for with federal IDEA funds, and yet they don't have one-on-one access to students, is the federal government going to come back and state that we can't pay those paraeducators with that, and we have to move them out of that program and put them into a state program that you saw was already $350,000 over.
Although that's probably going to be a state problem because
Correct.
the governor and the superintendent have given us direction to go ahead and pay them, and they'll deal with the feds.
Well, and I was wondering too if the declaration of emergency
Yeah.
declaration provides some sort of protection.
It
for
does,
us.
it does.
And they're waiting on a national level declaration. So because if we can get a national level, then we'll be a
It's-
lot better off.
Okay.
So right now, the guidance that we've received is put them in the programs that they're normally in, pay them, and we'll follow up and let you know what to do when
Let
more
them have
guidance
that
is
battle,
received.
yeah.
So, so that's what I have regarding where we're ending February. Do you guys have any other questions?
One question. You said the enrollment it's less in March. Did they withdraw and go someplace else?
It was a mix of absolutely everything. We saw reductions in every single one of our buildings. So we're talking every elementary school, middle school, and high school.
So one of the things is we're getting more and more military families, and March is typical time for PCS moves or when families move. Now, those are all halted now, so no more families are allowed to move. But that is when those moves typically start. And there were already a few families who, at the beginning of, as the COVID situation rolled out, came in and said, right now, I'm
Yep.
going to homeschool, I'm going to fill out the paperwork, I'm done until
Okay.
this crisis is over. So that was part of it. And then just some normal,
Okay.
You do start to see, you normally peak around the January timeframe, and you do start to see a decrease through the end of the year. Just to see 20 in 1 month is a little bit staggering, but I know that we did have parents pulling for the homeschooling side as well, especially.
Well, you had projected a 13, or I should say 11 person drop from March to April anyway,
yeah,
Exactly.
and then another one. So I mean, it was just earlier. that
yeah. It really is.
If you look at that
It's not
projection
right.
from March to
So
April
it's the
to
trend.
May.
Okay, thank you. drink water.
Good job, Ashley.
Craig.
Teaching.
You can't,
People who are listening, I was on a school board in the
you can't.
70s. I said then, if I had to run my dental office the way schools were forced to run their business,
Thank
back in
you,
the Army in a
Don.
heartbeat, and it's worse now.
Thank
than
you,
it was
Don.
then,
Thank you.
if anybody pays
Um,
attention to what I'm saying.
Okay, well, there's a time for you to say it, and it is not necessary right now. But at the end, you can repeat.
I will.
Okay.
Okay,
Teaching
so
and learning.
yeah, so I think what we're going to talk about a little bit. We've got a lot going on, obviously, and staff in every job in this district have worked incredibly hard as we dive into this new world that we are in this week. And I just want to acknowledge that everyone has pitched in. There's been a real we can do this attitude, and we're moving forward really well. You know, we've figured out how we're going to do a lot of things, and we're going to, with delivering lessons, will probably be some bumps in the road that we're running into, but I think the teachers and principals and staff in the buildings have done a really good job getting ready so that we can start that, and we're going to start it on Friday. We were originally going to start on Wednesday, but Monday of this week was would have been the first day of the new trimester for the secondary schools. And so kids, you know, we had to figure out who was going to need textbooks that didn't have them already for new courses that they were enrolled in. So it was a little more complicated than putting together the materials at elementary school and middle school. So we needed a little bit more time for them to do some logistical planning around that and figuring out who needs what. So if we are putting materials for a kid who has psychology on the bus, that we have the psychology book signed out to them with his pack of or her pack of materials. And so we made the decision that, you know, it's pretty confusing and upsetting for our families if you have kids at all three levels and we only give you one of the levels at first. So we were going to have them all ready to go at the same time. So we let families know we were waiting until Monday. And then as we're looking at decisions that are happening around the country and in our own state, and that some things may start tightening up even more, we wanted to make sure we got things in kids' hands. So we decided again to change that, and we've been working to be able to deliver materials for those who are wanting paper materials by tomorrow. And then if we don't get everybody, we'll get everybody caught up at the beginning of next week. But we want to be prepared and for people to have things in their hands that kids can work on, that they can interact with their teachers with about once they have them, regardless of what keeps happening and what rules are changing for us throughout the state and the nation. So the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction and the Governor highlighted some priorities as we go through this process. And among those priorities was that kids have meaningful learning to do, that our employees have meaningful work to do. So we're tying those things together to make sure that those happen. So although instructional staff will probably be doing a lot of their working from home as we move forward, we have an expectation that they have regular two-way communication with each student that they serve as they work through this process. So we're pretty proud of what they've put together to make sure that that happens. And then another major priority, the first one is that everybody gets fed. And you heard from Maureen about how that's happening tonight, and I'm really proud of food service and transportation and Ashley and all of the people who have volunteered to come in and help and work and get that going, and that we've done a really good job, and we'll get better with every day. As Maureen said, we're getting more kids every day, and we'll keep working on that. And we will tie that to distributing and collecting schoolwork from kids as well when it's not being done electronically, so that we are doing multiple modalities to make sure kids get work, that we can do it paper, pencil, we can do it online, but everybody will have access to their teachers, and they will have access to the equitable work, so that they can all have the same opportunity to keep their skills up and hopefully improve a little bit during this weird time. Another priority is that we provide childcare for the children of first responders and healthcare workers across our area. And we've been working on planning for that, and we've had multiple community partners who have offered to help us get that done. And most recently, though, Boys and Girls Club came forward, and they have put together and put in place already in Thurston County a really effective model that's a community partnership to provide that health care at the Boys and Girls Club sites, and that has met all of the requirements from the Department of DCYF for licensing and having appropriate childcare, meeting all the normal childcare requirements, but all the new ones for social distancing and making sure that kids are safe, having a nurse on site to check kids as they come in and be available throughout the day. So our Boys and Girls Club has now offered to move that model here into North Mason for us. So we're going to continue to do some conversation about getting that started tomorrow, the kind of fine-tuning. And it will be a partnership. We will provide breakfast and lunch. They will provide dinner and afternoon snack, because most of the people who work those jobs work 12-hour shifts at a minimum. So the site will be open, and if we were going to do it ourselves, it would have had to be open kind of the hours that our employees work, and that wouldn't quite have met the need. So it will be open like a 13-hour day, so that that fits for people who are on that shift. And kids will have breakfast and lunch that the school provides. They will have the afternoon snack and dinner through Boys and Girls Club. We will staff it together. But because they have the experience in camp programs and childcare-like programs, they'll take the lead in running the program, and our staff will assist. So we're pretty excited about that going
awesome.
forward.
Okay, so now does anybody have any questions for Dana?
No.
Okay, now we're at Resolution 2G20, which is emergency suspension of policy. Have you all had an opportunity to review the policy?
Yes.
I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion. Oh, John beat me to it.
Okay. Discussion?
Never thought we'd have to do that.
I never
Right.
did either. I want to point out that the one, further be it resolved down here where it says the superintendent will consult with the board president, that her actions will not be held up
No.
if she can't get in touch with me. She's who we hired to make that decision, so the consultation makes it basically just informational.
My goal on that language right there was if for some reason communication bypassed her to go to the board,
Oh,
that it would be fairly real-time information.
Oh, I
That was
see.
my goal of that one.
Okay.
And because this is a precedent-setting situation, I think it's important that at least the board leadership has that real-time information as quickly as possible.
and actually, our superintendent has been pretty diligent in that
Yeah.
respect, so I'm happy with that. So, if there's no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then we move to Resolution 3G20, graduation requirements for 2020.
So move to pass resolution 3-G-20.
Okay, any discussion?
Are we do you foresee us having to amend this before the end of this school year to
For
even?
the graduation requirement? I do not foresee that. Right now, they hadn't quite finished, but the counselors and the principals at the high schools have run a report about where every single senior is and what they need. So, as you know, our typical graduation requirement is 3 credits more than the state at
Right.
27. So this brings us to the 24 that is required as a minimum at the state. We also have within the language of our current board policy and the state expectation, the ability to waive a further 2 credits
Okay.
for any senior where we need to do that, as long as they have met all the required coursework. So the other piece that they're making sure that they've got a report on, that we can get every kid what they need right now in our senior class is there a senior who's is taking a class right now in the spring that they need to graduate. So we're going to make sure we get them through that class and with those credits, even if they have enough credits right now.
Do you
So,
f-
for example, civics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you foresee any action though from the state level to reduce for the
I do
1 year?
not at
Okay.
this point. But we don't know what they're going to say. We thought they were going to give us guidance for seniors before this board meeting. We think we're going to get it now on Monday. So we don't expect it to be beyond that.
Okay.
And, you know, it's a case of the multiple agencies have to work together. So the agency that sets graduation requirements is not OSPI. It's, I forget
State
the.
Board of Education. isn't it?
Yes, State Board of Education. And they're talking together about what this is going to look like. But I think it's a matter of them agreeing, and they're not quite there yet. So,
Would it be helpful, and I don't know if this would be needing amendment or anything like that, but would it be helpful to leave it open-ended in case there was state action?
well, we could, and we can also look at the fact that you guys just granted the
Those
decision-making
emergency powers?
that we just did.
Okay,
So that technically, under the resolution that we just approved, if I needed to change graduation requirements, I could do that.
okay.
And just let you know.
Yeah, as long as
Yeah.
that doesn't have to be held up.
Right.
No. Any
Call
other
for-
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we are at capital projects.
Do we have any new? Yeah, all the capital projects that we have left to do are awaiting permits from the county, and we have not been able to do any more since last time we talked because they have not given us the permits.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. What about 2021 budget planning?
So, Ashley and I and all of my various leadership teams have been really having an educational time this spring and very stressful. But we're doing some really good work, and the process that we have to go through because of not passing our February levy requires that we will enter into a RIF process with NMEA, that we will have a report for you, a very complete report about what positions and exactly how much each of those costs and what that total NMEA piece of that is at the next board meeting. We have put together a package that will get us to where we need to get, that will be on the next board agenda for total dollar amounts and programs, et cetera. And let's see. And so it's pretty intense work. It's going to, what we keep reminding ourselves is that sometimes when you have to make really big changes, it's also an opportunity to make really big changes and do things very differently. And so we're going to take that tack as we go forward, but it's not been easy to figure it out. We just we almost finished today. We're giving building leaders an opportunity to give input and maybe suggest different ideas to get to certain dollar amounts in each of their locations. Then we finished. We've already had a couple of opportunities for that, but Cabinet had to go back and look and go deeper than we had done in that last conversation. So we're going to give them an opportunity to put eyes on that and see what they have to say, and then we'll be ready to write a resolution and get it before the board. So that's what we've been doing, but it will be an opportunity for us to get where we need to be going forward, and if we don't get to pass the levy. And as I'm not sure all of the board members are aware, but in the last couple days, I'm sure not all of them are aware, we've been made aware that the Secretary of State and the election officers in each of the 39 counties got together and wrote a letter to the governor requesting that he use his emergency powers to cancel all April elections. So we are engaging, and I know Craig has been already doing yeoman's work with the people that he can engage with in the legislature with leaders in Olympia to make sure that they understand the impact on our district and 11 others who need to run a levy or are faced with a RIF situation this year. And so our ask continues to be that if this decision is made, that they also use emergency powers and emergency funds to support those districts, because choosing to cancel an election that we needed doesn't give us an opportunity to make our budget whole. And so that's where we are in the work that we've been doing. We'll keep pushing for that. I know we have support. We've talked with some people at PSE and WEA that are also making those arguments on our behalf and on the behalf of the other districts as well. And so we'll see what happens. The governor has not made that pronouncement yet. We did get a letter from the Secretary of State today that intimated that they feel that it's going to happen. And so, and gave an opportunity to respond, and so I did. But we'll keep pushing on that, and we'll keep you informed. At this point in time, we're going ahead with our levy planning. And we're trying to find out if they're going to make a decision, when they are, so that we can communicate as we need with our public here in North Mason.
Okay. Any questions? Comments?
I'll keep them.
All right. Upcoming board letter columnist. John, you have March.
Yeah, what should I say?
Why don't you spend a little time with Dana on the phone for for a little direction in that area, so that we can all be consistent with the message that we're giving.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Okay. All right.
I sent a note to Dan, and I just got a reply. I haven't read it yet. I mean, just so I'm in touch with that committee. But Dana, I can call you sometime tomorrow morning, maybe?
Yes, probably before 10 would be great.
Okay, before 10.
Thank you.
All right. All right, and Leanna, you have April, I have May, and Art, you have June. Hopefully we'll have something really fun to write by June. That'd be good. And now we're at assurance of organizational performance and policy review, and our first policy is ER 9, Executive Requirements 9, communication with the public.
I feel like we just did that.
We moved it to this month.
It was
It
supposed
was-
to be, yeah.
Okay.
So-
But I'm not, well, a little crazy.
No, you're not.
I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I would like to move that we find the superintendent's performance on ER 9, communication with the public, to be compliant with our policies.
Okay. Any discussion?
No, I think the biggest thing, we've talked about it before, especially now with this situation, is whomever is running some of that social media, is if there's questions posted, that they don't sit there for 5 hours before being answered, or a long extended amount of time. And I know I don't know if whoever's running those, if they pay attention to like some of the PTSA websites or anything like that, but there's a lot of parents who are asking questions on like Hawkins PTSA.
Okay.
And I think it's happened at Belfair PT as well. They're not the official district channels. I know Mr. Callahan's doing a really good
There's
job.
100 different
There are,
pages out there.
but, and I try to respond, hey, ask the district, but maybe keep an eye out there too if there's questions, and it'd be great if they just came to the district, but unfortunately that's not always happening, so.
Yeah, and we will work on that. It's, that's, the person who was assigned to do that almost full-time isn't with
Yeah.
us anymore, so somebody else is picking the job up, and I think they're doing a really good job, but we'll keep
Yeah.
working on it.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then ER 12, student conduct discipline. I'll entertain a motion.
You had such a good one last time.
Well, I can do it again. Madam President, I think I said chairman last time. But Madam President, I would like to move that we find the superintendent's performance on ER 12, student conduct discipline, to be compliant with our policies and our wishes.
Okay. comments or discussion?
I did have a question with regarding to the data, mostly the charts on the last page.
Yeah.
Is that pretty consistent with the implementation of the MTSS? Is it how, kind of have a little bit of a fluctuation either way with how
Yeah,
things are
you know,
adopted?
you kind of have that when you do something new, especially around that kind of thing, you have that forming, storming, and norming kind
Yeah.
of thing happening. So, yeah.
Okay.
A comment that I would have is, I would like to see some actual numbers, not just the percentages.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I was having a hard time choosing which charts.
Right.
And so we do have that information as well that we can get to you.
And this again is for 18-19.
Yeah, this is 1819, the state data,
Okay.
because it's what compares us to other people. That's why
Right.
I keep pulling that. And 1920 we're in the middle of, so
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we are at adjournment. Good of the order. The board members have anything they would like to?
I would just like to ask everyone to keep practicing patience, and as things change, I know having the information come out from the teachers, I think there was a big release of information today, and I know there was some heartache, but as things kind of become, that process moves out, which I expect to happen fairly quickly. Just a little bit of grace and patience, I think, will take us all a long way. I think people are doing a really good job of that, and once again, I can't
our
overemphasize
community's
enough.
been so supportive of the
Yeah.
work we're trying to do.
Yeah,
And just, once again, to the staff, you guys are doing amazing, just
you are.
top notch.
And Lori, I think you should get a little money from the King 5 for all of that.
I was proud to do that.
Oh,
You did a great
well,
job.
hey.
But it wasn't just me, you know, the kitchen staff has come there every day, they have great meals, the pairs are there. It's not just one, it's not just the bus drivers, we're all a team.
Well, you represented them amazingly. so.
Very well, yes, thank you.
That was the other thing I was going to say, and thank you for bringing that up, that the staff, when the transportation, or all the bus drivers, we'd go up and meet the food service staff, and then they would all pile together, and we'd all get everything onto the buses, and then their 3 or 4, whatever it was, would get on the bus and go out as a team. So, and that was really well organized, that they were already ready when we got there, and no miscommunications there at all. One of the things that came up in the community that I have been, just friends and stuff like that, that somebody was concerned about graduating and prom. What if we don't get to do it? What if we don't get to walk? And I said, you know, if it got down to that kind of thing happening, whether it's the school or the community, we would make sure that you got to walk, even if we're not shaking hands on, you know, for a diploma, and we would make sure that you were recognized and you got to have a dance to go to and experience that no matter what, there would have to be, whether it was through the district or the community through a big hall for them to do it, you know, that when this goes to where we can shake each other's hand and stand close and dance with each other, you know, that would happen. It was somebody was nervous about that.
Well,
So-
we have to be careful what we promise.
Oh, I
Because
didn't
we,
promise anything. I
We're
said,
currently, right now, hearing that it could go out 18 months.
sure, yep.
And if there's no graduation and that's what they lose in
Yeah.
this, then that's what they lose. And it's just
Yeah.
unfortunate for everybody.
The-
Really unfortunate.
The voice that I used was that you would be recognized. Don't worry about not being recognized, that your name, virtually or however that turned out, that they were going to be recognized, as they already are. And all the birthdays, right? My son has a birthday coming up, and he's very nervous about not being able to hang out with his friends to do it. So maybe they'll get to play video games or something together.
Anybody else? Don, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I'll repeat what I said earlier.
Okay.
One small revision.
Just a moment, John.
I was on the school board back in the 70s, and the first unfunded mandate that came through was Title IX. They said, you will provide equal sports, and we're not gonna give you a dime to do it. And at that point, I said, you know, if I had to run my office like this, I'd be back in the Army in a heartbeat. And it has gotten worse since the 70s. You guys are dealing with stuff that, thank God, I don't have to deal with anymore, but it's just, it's insane.
Yeah,
For
it is.
anybody to say that you guys have no idea what you're doing is totally out of bounds.
Oh, and I would encourage you to tell people that if it is.
I've been preaching it since the 70s, but nobody listens to me.
Okay,
Or they do, and they nod their head at the appropriate time and.
Yeah.
It's just-
okay.
It's so frustrating. What you were trying to describe is unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
We will do this, we have to do it.
Yeah.
We're gonna pay you, and then, oh, I guess we're not gonna pay you exactly what it costs to do that.
Yeah,
That's
How
crazy.
insane is that?
it is. We should all get together and have a pity party pretty soon here. So thank you,
It's-
Dawn.
it's-
I
Thank
think we're
you.
having it right now. I mean, like,
I
the
know.
whole,
John, did you have something you wanted to add?
I'm afraid not. It was all I could do to hear it. There was a buzz on the phone, but I get the general picture, and I look forward to talking with Dana and tomorrow, and I thank you all for keeping your heads and your nerves.
Thank you, John.
I have one thing.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we had a group of people that we were going to invite to the meeting to recognize, and because of social distancing, we're not able to do that. So I do want to recognize that March is the Washington State School Retirees Association month, and we want to recognize all of our school retirees. We are very proud of the work that they have done for kids in their time in the schools, and so many of them continue to do in our schools and other schools as volunteers after retirement. And so I just did want to take a moment, even though we weren't able to have them here to recognize, to say thank you to the retirees for their work, for their dedication to children, for their volunteerism. We really are very proud that they are a part of what we do.
Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Yes. All right. Director Kratzer will process the board's self-assessment.
all right. Well, I am going to do a, as others have done maybe in the past, but our general meeting behavior. I'm not going to read through all of them. I'm going to say that we are satisfactory through our meeting behavior. And the governance principles review that we did everything that was on our agenda, and we did it with in the order that it was put. And I think we did well there too, except for the NA and writing additional policies that we usually mark off. I'm going to put yes for all that, and so our overall is satisfactory.
Okay, thank you. Our next board meeting date will be April 16th at 6:30 p.m. right here. And the meeting is adjourned, and thank you all for coming.